Hello, dreamer. Welcome to the Dreamy Astronaut, a quiet corner of the cosmos where science gently drifts into sleep. Tonight, we're exploring something deeply mysterious, yet endlessly beautiful. Dark energy. What's tearing the universe apart? It may sound dramatic, but this invisible force is real, and it's pulling the fabric of the universe outward, stretching space itself like a slow cosmic breath. We'll journey through the silence between galaxies, float beside ancient starlight, and listen to the quiet hum of the cosmos. But before we begin, where in the world are you joining us from tonight? And what time is it where you are right now? Let me know in the comments below. I love imagining all of us stargazing together from every corner of the earth. Now, settle in. Let your body grow still. Let your breath become slow. And let's drift into the dark, beautiful unknown. You begin with breath, not your own at first, but the breath of space itself. A silent inhalation so vast, so slow, it takes billions of years just to exhale. You are floating now, held not by gravity, but by stillness. A weightless kind of peace. Around you, the stars are drifting, perceptibly moving farther and farther apart, like lanterns released into an eternal night sky. This is the universe in motion. You might imagine that. Space is still, cold, empty, but it isn't. It's alive. With motion, you can't feel directly an expansion so smooth, so patient, it becomes almost invisible. Galaxies are not moving through space like birds through wind. Instead, space itself is stretching like soft fabric, gently tugged from every side. And on that fabric, the galaxies drift, pulled not by effort, but by the space between them. Simply growing. You are a passenger on that breath. Long ago, cosmos was closer, warmer, brighter. The stars were packed together more tightly, like a crowded gathering before the hush. But over time, the silence grew wider. Now, each galaxy floats in solitude, cradled in its own corner of the sky, separated from its neighbors by an ever-widening ocean of emptiness. This separation is not violent. It's not an explosion. It's a soft retreat like low tide pulling water back into the sea. You don't hear it. You only feel the drift. And in that drift, something else stirs. Not gravity. That would pull things in. This is different. Pushes. It's called dark energy, though no one really knows what it is. You can't see it. You can't touch it. And yet, it's everywhere, woven into the very shape of space. It's like the hum of a distant flute you can't locate, but somehow feel in your chest. Dark energy doesn't scream. It whispers. A low, persistent encouragement to stretch, expand, let go. You might imagine it like breath itself, a cosmic inhale that never fully ends. But the deeper you float into the dark, the more the mystery deepens. Why does the universe expand? Why doesn't it stop? Why does the space between things grow, even as the things themselves stay perfectly still? You drift among the answers, or the shapes of them. You imagine dark energy as a tide moving beneath. The stars, it doesn't pull or crash. It simply is. Lifts galaxies apart the way a breeze separates petals from a flower without sound. Without struggle, the more the universe grows, the more powerful this unseen force becomes. It accelerates the expansion, like a slow exhale that never runs out of breath. Scientists call it a cosmological constant, but names don't reveal much. They're placeholders for wonder and sometimes for doubt, because no one really knows what dark energy is, only that it exists and that it seems to be everywhere. You might feel uneasy, knowing the cosmos is filled with something so invisible, so unexplained. But here, in this still moment, it becomes something else, a reminder that not all mysteries are meant to be solved. Some are meant to be felt, lingered with, carried gently into sleep. Dark energy doesn't create stars. It doesn't pull atoms together or ignite light. It doesn't burn, doesn't bind. But without it, the stars would not drift, the universe would not stretch, and this soft journey between galaxies would not exist. You look around. The galaxies are still moving, not fast, just always far across the void. A spiral galaxy turns, slowly, silently, like a clock with no numbers. Arms stretch outward, stars spinning in perfect rhythm, unaware that the space between them is growing wider still. And yet, they remain in orbit bound, not by expansion, but by gravity's careful hand. This tension between gravity and dark energy is the breath of the cosmos. One pulls in, one presses out, one gathers, one scatters. Together, they create the quiet balance you drift through now. You wonder what it means that the universe is expanding, accelerating, pulling itself apart. Where does it go? What happens when the breath becomes too long, too far? There are theories. Some believe the universe will stretch forever, cooling into silence. A distant, soft death where every star burns out and nothing more can form. Imagine a reversal gravity, gathering strength once more, pulling everything back into a single, infinite point. A great collapse, a rebirth, breath inhaled again. But for now, we are somewhere in between. You are floating between heartbeats, between what was and what will be, between galaxies that no longer remember touching, and in that space, you feel the hush, a pause not of emptiness, but of potential. The same pause before a thought, before a memory, before a dream begins to form. Because the breath between stars isn't just space, it's a question, a soft, unanswered thought that hums beneath everything, beneath atoms, beneath light, beneath the turning of time. And as you float there, wrapped in that hum, a quieter question begins to take shape. If the universe is expanding into what? You feel the edges of that question curl around you, slow and wide, like a spiral unfurling into sleep. The space beyond the stars beckons, soft, dark, and filled with something even stranger than expansion. Not just the stretching of space, but the bending of it. And so you drift toward the next mystery, the shape of the universe itself. There was once a quiet confidence among scientists. As the universe expanded, it made sense to think it would eventually slow down. Gravity, after all, pulls things together. It holds stars and galaxies, moons to planets, and feet to the floor. Surely, gravity would also pull the universe back inward. Not immediately, perhaps, but one day. a slow deceleration, a cosmic breath held, then released. But something unexpected was hiding in the dark. It began as a whisper in the data. Faint light from distant supernova, tiny stellar explosions, frozen in the fabric of the cosmos, reached Earth with a message that made astronomers sit back in stunned silence. The universe wasn't slowing down, it was speeding up. The breath between stars wasn't relaxing, it was accelerating. As if space itself were not simply stretching, but being pushed outward by something invisible, relentless, and silent. This was not what anyone expected. And so, not because it was made of darkness, not because it was even energy in the traditional sense, but because it was a placeholder way to speak of the unknown without claiming to understand it. You sit now with that mystery. Close your eyes and try to imagine something you can never see. No color, no weight, no boundary, a presence with no shape or shadow. It does not glow, it does not fall, it does not hum, burn, or bend. It doesn't even push in the way we understand pushing. And yet, it changes the fate of galaxies. It makes everything drift faster. You float again in the stillness of space. The stars as pinpricks of memory all around you. And you listen, not with ears, but with a deeper sense, a soft awareness. Because dark energy does not speak in sound, it speaks in consequence. The farther out you look, the more its influence becomes visible, like wind shaping the path of leaves. You never see the wind. You only see what it moves. It was the same with dark energy. The further scientists peered, the stranger things became. The light from faraway galaxies had shifted, stretched into red, the wavelength longer, like a note played more slowly with each passing billion years. That redshift wasn't just evidence of movement, it was proof of acceleration. And so, the quiet force with no name revealed itself not by arriving, but by having always been there. No one knows what dark energy truly is. Some call it the energy of empty space. Others imagine it as a property of the vacuum itself, a kind of background tension embedded in reality. The truth, softly and strangely, may be beyond even our metaphors. It fills the universe evenly and effortlessly. It doesn't clump or form clouds or gather like gas. It's not like dark matter, which still has mass and weight. Dark energy doesn't cling to galaxies. It floats through them, beyond them, past them. A pressureless pressure, a pull-less push. There is no edge to it, no center. Just the suggestion of something that wants more space. And so, space obliges. You drift through that thought. Imagine a vast sheet of quiet water, perfectly flat. Each ripple a galaxy, each shimmer a trace of time. Now imagine something beneath it, a force you can't see, gently stretching the sheet outward, not tearing it, not rolling it, just expanding it slowly, endlessly. That's dark energy, and you are drifting on it. It doesn't affect your skin. It doesn't raise your heart rate, but it is there beneath everything. A slow exhale that shapes the story of the cosmos. Long ago, scientists asked, will the universe keep expanding forever? Or will it fall back in on itself? Now, they ask a softer, stranger question. What happens when expansion never stops? What becomes of a cosmos that grows colder, lonelier, quieter with each passing yin? They call it the heat death, though it's not heat that defines it. It's the absence of contrast. A universe that is stretched so far and so long that everything is evenly empty. No gradients, no stars, no light, just soft, endless darkness. Quiet, not as peace but as permanence. But that future is far. You are still here, still watching the stars and dark energy. It's with you now, not a threat, not a comfort, just a presence like breath. It makes you wonder, what if this quiet force is not a mistake? Not an error in the numbers or a glitch in our understanding? What if it is the nature of the universe to reach outward, not for escape, but for possibility? If expansion is not a breaking apart, but a growing room, you picture it, no galaxies, stretching into the void, not as lost things, but as seeds scattered in a limitless garden. Maybe not to bloom again, maybe not ever to meet, but to be. And still, the question lingers, why? Why is there a force that speeds the expansion of space? Why is the universe pulled apart by something that refuses to be touched, weighed, or known? Maybe the answer lies not in stars, but in silence. Because dark energy is not something you solve. It is something you sense, a kind of awareness. A feeling that the universe is more than what's visible, more than what's measurable. It is what remains after everything else is named. It reminds you that the deepest truths may not arrive loudly. They arrive like this: a quiet shift in a beam of light, a soft echo from 1 billion years ago, a pattern noticed by accident, recorded by care and studied in wonder. You sit with that wonder now. The galaxies keep drifting. The spaces between them keep growing. And in those spaces, the quiet force with no name hums on. Not a sound, but a suggestion that there is more. The unknown is not empty. That absence itself might be full of meaning. You breathe in, the universe expands a little more, and somewhere far, far away, galaxy, you'll never see moves just a little farther from the next. But you're not afraid, because not everything needs to be seen, to be felt. Not everything invisible is unknowable. Some things exist to remind you that mystery is not the enemy of understanding, is its beginning. And somewhere in that mystery, something else waits, something just as strange, just as quiet. But instead of pushing, pulls. You feel the tug now, soft and certain, like a hand beneath still water. A gravity not born from mass alone, but from space curving into itself. And just ahead, where light can't escape and time begins to blur, the edges of a black hole begin to take shape. You are floating again, suspended in a hush between eras, between stars, and thoughts and possibilities not yet realized. The cosmos stretches quietly around you, vast and pulsing with wonder. But tonight, your journey drifts backward, not through space, but through time. You find yourself in the soft glow of the early 20th century, where the air hums with chalk dust and candlelight. In a quiet study lined with worn books and ticking clocks, a man sits alone at his desk, deep in thought. His name is Albert Einstein. His mind is not like most. It moves slowly, with immense clarity, like light gliding through water. He does not need machines to uncover the universe. Only questions, only imagination. Thought experiments swirl around him like snowflakes, quiet and unique, each melting into the next at this moment in time. The universe is believed to be eternal and still unchanging, unmoving, like a painting hung in the heavens. But Einstein, with his equations, sees something different. His general theory of relativity, just beginning to unfold, reveals that space and time are not fixed. They bend, they curve. They respond to the mass and motion of everything inside them. Yet, his own equations trouble him. They suggest that the universe should be either expanding or contracting, not sitting still. And so, with a careful hand, he introduces a small addition, a kind of mathematical patch. He calls it the cosmological constant, a term designed not to explore, but to resist change. It is meant to balance out gravity, to hold the universe in place like a quiet breath held too long. At the time, there was no evidence that the universe was expanding. No red-shifted galaxies. No whispers of cosmic acceleration. Just stillness. Just belief. And so Einstein forces the universe to remain at rest in paper. At least, you drift beside him as he thinks. And you wonder, was it a mistake or was it something else entirely, a glimpse of a truth the world was not yet ready to see? Years pass, quietly in 1929. Edwin Hubble peers through a telescope and discovers what Einstein's math had hinted at all along. The galaxies are not still. They are moving away from us. From each other, space itself is expanding. The universe is not static. It is growing. And with that discovery, Einstein's cosmological constant is cast aside. A blunder, he calls it. His greatest mistake. But you are not so sure, because now, as you float back into the present, you carry with you the knowledge of what came later, decades later, when scientists looked deeper, farther, quieter. In the late 1990s, astronomers studying distant supernova found something unexpected. The expansion of the universe wasn't just continuing, it was accelerating. Some invisible force was driving it forward. A quiet energy, a presence in the dark. And suddenly, Einstein's discarded constant was no longer a mistake. It was a possibility, a placeholder for the very thing we now call dark energy. You begin to see it clearly now, not as an error, but as a seed. A symbol of how the universe sometimes whispers its secrets long before we're ready to hear them. The cosmological constant wasn't wrong. It was early. You picture it like a musical note, held too soon, before the rest of the symphony was written, floating gently between thoughts. You return to Einstein's quiet room. The candle has burned lower. The clocks tick on. Perhaps even then, he sensed that what he had written would outlive him, echoing forward into a cosmos still full of mystery. What is this constant, really? Is it a force? A pressure? A property of space itself? You imagine the fabric of the universe like a soft, stretching skin, each point on its surface expanding outward, driven by something that resists gravity's pull. The cosmological constant is not a thing you can hold or point to. It is an idea that gently reshapes how we see space and what it means for space to grow. Unlike matter, it doesn't clump. Unlike radiation, it doesn't fade. It remains constant, like the hush between two spoken thoughts, like the breath before a dream begins. And though Einstein could not know what dark energy truly was, his constant gave us a way to begin asking, to name the silence, to fold the unknown into the language of physics and listen. You begin to see how science and story often intertwine not in conflict, but in harmony. One gives structure, the other gives meaning, and both are born from the same desire to understand. Einstein's blunder reminds you that not all wrong turns are wrong. Some are paths that loop back later, opening doors we didn't know we'd need. You let this comfort settle into your chest. There is peace in knowing that not everything must be solved at once. Some ideas wait. Some truths unfold across centuries. And in the vast stretch of the universe, time is generous. There is space for patience. You breathe slowly now, feeling the rhythm of expansion, not as a rush, but as a slow blooming. The cosmological constant, once set aside, becomes again a quiet companion in our equations. It tells us that the universe may be filled with something that resists closure, that resists stillness. It may be a kind of pressure built into space itself, a tendency for existence to stretch, to unfold. Not through force, but through quiet insistence. And you wonder if this constant is real. If space truly expands because of something written into its nature, what does that mean for the fate of everything? Will the universe continue expanding, forever pulled gently by the constant into deeper silence? Or could this quiet force, like a breath paused too long, one day shift again? You feel the question settle, not urgently, but curiously. You are not afraid of the unknown. You have learned to float with it. And as you drift now toward the edge of this chapter, you find yourself watching the stars from afar, wondering about the shape of things. If space can stretch, if time can bend, what does it mean for the universe itself? What shape does it take? What geometry lives beneath the stars? You close your eyes, and the world begins to fall away. The room fades first, then the walls, the ceiling, the sky beyond. Everything becomes still, like a breath held between stars. You float in a quiet nothing, but it does not feel empty. It feels full, full of space, full of possibility. Tonight, the universe unfolds. You are drifting in the dark, but all around you is motion silent, smooth, impossibly vast. You do not feel it, not in your skin or breath, but in the stretch of everything itself. This is not motion through space. It is space itself that moves. You imagine a balloon, but not one you can hold, not one with edges or rubber skin. This balloon lives in every direction at once. Its surface is not a chalet, is everything. And as it inflates, every point on that surface moves away from every other point. There is no edge. There is only the swelling of space, and you are inside it, riding gently along. Galaxies are not flying apart like debris from an explosion. They are passengers on the fabric of space, drifting because the space between them is growing. Imagine raisins in rising dough. The raisins don't move on their own, but the dough expands, and so the distance grows. This is the nature of your universe. It expands not from a place, but as a process, everywhere, all at once. And still, you wonder, what causes it to grow? You are not alone in that wondering. Scientists, too, have spent lifetimes with this question. For much of the 20th century, it was enough to know the universe was expanding. But now, we know it isn't just stretching, it's accelerating. Something is pushing it outward, and faster with time. You've met this something before. Quiet, nameless, a force with no texture or light. Dark energy. You feel it now, not as a wind, not as a shove, but as a constant invitation. It encourages space to stretch just a little more. And so it does. Not quickly, not suddenly, but steadily, softly, like breath. You begin to see the balloon in a new way. Not as a shape, but as a living thing. A universe with a pulse. A vastness that grows like a dream, expanding across sleep. And you just a small, quiet part of a tar carried along. It's hard to feel the expansion where you are. Galaxies, stars, even atoms are held together by gravity, by forces stronger than the swell of space. But far beyond, where galaxies are spread thin, the effect becomes visible. With every second, the universe grows large, not because it wants to, but because it must. There is no going back. You watch the stars stretch away, not rushing, but drifting like lanterns on a slow river. Each one carries its own story, its own time, and the river flows on, its banks forever widening. The idea of an expanding universe is not a metaphor. It is measurable, real, the light from distant. Galaxies arrives redder than it should be, stretched as space expands between source and receiver. This redshift is not a trick of the eye, but a fingerprint of the universe's motion. You let that image settle. Light, pulled like taffy across billions of years, arriving faint but faithful. This balloon in the dark is not inflating into anything. That's the hardest part to hold. It is not pushing against empty space. It is space. It makes its own room as it grows. The outside does not exist because space doesn't need an outside. You feel the balloon in your chest, now not literal, not rubber or round, but the idea of it. A growing, stretching truth that has no edge. You imagine it filling even your thoughts, your silence, your dreams. And still the question breathes inside you. Will it keep growing forever? If dark energy continues its gentle push, the universe may stretch into quiet isolation. Galaxies will drift too far to see one another. Stars will burn out. Matter will spread thin. The fabric of existence will flatten. A cold, even stillness. Some call it the heat death, not fire, but its opposite. Not burning, but the absence of flame. A universe with no contrast, no light, no change. But that's only one ending. Others dream of a big rip, a future where dark energy grows stronger, tearing galaxies apart, then stars, then atoms, until even space itself cannot hold. And then some believe in something gentler, a balance, a slow fade, not a rip, not a burn, just a long exhale that never quite ends. But no one knows. You are floating inside the question itself. And the question is the destination. This balloon, this vastness, this expanding everything, it is not just physics. It is poetry. It is metaphor made real. The universe grows, and so does your understanding. The more you learn, the more there is to wonder. The more you drift, the more you feel the shape of motion. And still, there is no center. The universe did not begin at a single place, like a firework in the sky. It began everywhere, all at once. Even here, where you now imagine yourself floating. The Big Bang was not an explosion in space. It was the creation of space itself. Time, too, began then. Before that, the question loses meaning. Time is not something that sits like a river waiting to be stepped into. It is born with the cosmos, with the balloon, with the breath, and so you breathe. The universe continues to grow, not into something else, but into itself. It is not expanding to escape. It is expanding because that is what it does. A natural unfolding, a cosmic flower that never finishes. Blooming, you drift in that flower now. You float in its petals. You feel the stretch, not as speed, but as rhythm. And somewhere in the silence, you begin to hear a deeper question rise. If the universe is expanding, if it has no edge, if space can grow without moving through anything, then what does that say about the shape of it all? What form does infinite motion take? Can something infinite be curved? Can something with no end have structure? You are not seeking answers tonight, only wonder. Only the feel of the question pressing gently against the edges of your thought, like the stretch of the balloon in the dark. And there, in the space between one breath and the next, you begin to sense it, the shape beneath the stretch. It curves around you not like a ball, but like something stranger, something vast and subtle, not flat, not folded, but something in between, a shape so large you cannot see it from the inside. And so you drift now toward the next quiet mystery, the geometry of everything. You are drifting now, not through silence, but through memory, not your own, but the memory of the stars, their ancient light still crossing the void. Behind every beam, a story. Behind every flicker, a measurement of time. You begin to understand. The universe keeps its own kind of clock, and sometimes it tells time through fire. Cernover. You hear the word like a bell soft at first, then blooming outward. A star reaching its final act, ending not in silence, but in brilliance. A sudden, radiant burst that outshines entire galaxies for a moment, then fades, slowly. Beautifully, you float near one, now not in danger, not in heat, but in understanding. This is not destruction, it is release. The last breath of a life lived burning. The last exhale of gravity and fusion in delicate balance. When the balance breaks, the star collapses inward, and then, like a heartbeat, explodes outward. And in that explosion, light, not just any light, but steady, faithful light. The kind that tells us something measurable. These are not just fireworks in the dark. They are cosmic candles, timekeepers, lighthouses, markers in the sea of space. Astronomers call a certain kind type EA. Supernova, special kind of repetition. predictable, consistent. They always reach the same brightness. Give or take a breath that makes them valuable. Because if you know how bright something truly is, and you see how dim it appears, you can tell how far away it must be, like judging the distance of a lantern across a foggy field by how faint its glow becomes. These flickers become anchors in the shifting dark. And in the 1990s, scientists used them to map the universe. They looked far, farther, and farther still, watching the dimming of these explosions, gathering clues about how fast the cosmos was expanding. What they found was unexpected. Supernova were too dim, not just far away, but farther than they should have been. If the universe had been expanding at a constant pace, their light would have arrived sooner, but it hadn't. The expansion had sped up. The message arrived, late but clear. Something was pushing the universe apart. Dark energy, you feel the weight of that realization, not heavy but wide. A force so quiet, so invisible, revealed not by its presence, but by timing, by light that arrived with a whisper from across the ages, saying, everything is moving faster than you thought. It's easy to imagine supernova as violent, but here, drifting gently, they feel like cosmic chimes. Their echoes tell stories about the fabric of space. You watch one now. A star expands, shimmers, and bursts. The wave of light spreads outward, slow and graceful. It's not like an explosion here on Earth. No smoke, no roar, just expansion. The supernova becomes dust, and from that dust, planets' life. Wonder, you begin to see how endings and beginnings are not separate things, but phases of a cosmic rhythm. Each time a star dies this way, it leaves behind a legacy, not only in elements iron, gold, carbon, but in light. Measurable, beautiful light. A coded message from the past, still arriving in the deepest part of space, where telescopes become time machines. Astronomers peer back billions of years, using these supernova. Every point of light, a tick in the cosmic clock. And with each tick, the picture becomes clearer. The universe isn't slowing down. It never was. It's speeding up. You wonder what it must have felt like to discover that too. Sit beneath the stars and realize that the sky isn't just expanding. It's accelerating, not because of anything we can see, but because of something we can't. You might have felt small, but maybe not afraid, because the stars are still here. The galaxies are still glowing. The universe still unfolds its quiet song, and floating here among the glowing remnants of ancient stars. You begin to feel it too, awe, without fear. You look again at the light of a supernova. You imagine it traveling for billions of years across stretching space, through clouds of dust, through time itself, until it reaches a lens, a mirror, a pair of waiting eyes. And when it does, it tells the truth. Not loudly, just clearly. You begin to see how time in the universe isn't kept by seconds or minutes, but by light. Light that stretches. Light that remembers. Every flicker you see tonight is a story already told. A signal sent long ago, but it arrives now, and it means something. Not only to scientists, but to you. You, the dreamer, floating in the dark, listening to the sky's slow rhythm, and so you listen. The explosions are not chaotic. They are clocks. Each one adds to the map. Each one measures the stretch. Each one gives us another clue. From these clues, we learned that the universe is older than it looks, that its future may be colder than we hoped, but also that we are capable of reading such delicate signals. You think of all the things that had to happen for this understanding to reach you. The birth of stars, the ticking of light, the watching of patient eyes through telescopes, the work of minds willing to question, to listen, to follow faint signals into vast truths. You think of all the stars that lived, burned, and died, just to send one message. And the message was this: the universe is still moving, faster than we expected, and something is guiding it. Not with hands, not with sound, but with a whisper. You drift in that whisper now, and as you drift, another question begins to stir. If a single star can become a beacon, if light can measure distance, if space can stretch, then what happens when light gets caught, not sent outward, but pulled inward? Ahead of you, a new silence begins to form, a place where gravity becomes too strong and time begins to slow, a place where not even light can escape, only mystery. You begin with a quiet unknowing, drifting gently through the dark. You carry with you not facts, but questions light and loose like feathers. In your hands are guesses gathered over time. You turn them over slowly, letting them fall one by one. This chapter isn't about what we know, it's about what we've ruled out. You float beside the stars, listening to the soft rhythm of space expanding, and you think again of dark energy, that quiet, persistent presence pushing the universe apart. And you ask softly, what is it? The answer, for now, is shaped more by absence than presence. So, you begin by asking what it isn't. It's not dark matter. Dark matter pulls, helps galaxies hold together, keeps stars from flying apart. It has gravity. It has mass. You can't see it, but you can feel its tug in the way galaxies spin. Dark matter clumps and clusters. Dark energy doesn't, it spreads. It pushes, resists gravity's pull. If dark matter is like a hand that holds, dark energy is like a breath that expands. Opposite intentions, both invisible. So no dark energy is not dark matter. You let that leaf fall next. You ask, is it some kind of force? A cousin of gravity, perhaps? But gravity pulls inward, and this stretches things outward, maybe. It's the opposite of gravity. But opposites are rarely so simple in the cosmos. Gravity depends on mass. It's tied to things. Dark energy isn't tied to anything we can point to. It doesn't seem to be a force acting between objects, but a feature of space itself. Something baked into the very shape of reality. So it's not gravity. Not really. Another leaf drifts down. You wonder, could it be made of particles? Some kind of field or fluid? They've tried to trap it in equations, to give it a mass, a charge, a name. But nothing stays. No particle explains it. No theory contains it fully. You let that leaf go too. You think of Einstein again, and his cosmological constant. a gentle term for a deep mystery. Maybe dark energy is just space, being space. Maybe empty space has its own energy, its own hum. Always there, always expanding. This idea is simple, a kind of built-in stretching. But then you wonder if it's always been there. Why did it take so long to notice? Because it is quiet. It doesn't crash or collide. It doesn't heat or shine. It only whispers across billions of years, in the motion of galaxies, in the dimming of distant stars. It shapes everything without ever showing its face. That's the hardest part. It leaves no mark, and yet it's everywhere. You drift through the possibilities like a forest in late autumn. The trees are bare, the air still. The ideas are scattered like fallen leaves, each one once held tightly, now loosened by time and wind. They settle gently on the ground of what we've learned. Sometimes knowledge is built not by answers, but by slow elimination. By turning toward the silence and noticing what remains, you are not frustrated. You are not in a hurry, because some mysteries ask not to be solved, but to be witnessed, to be carried, to be slowly turned in the light. Again and again. You think again of what dark energy might be. Not a thing, but a behavior. Not a substance, but a tendency. Not something added to the universe, but something fundamental to its very becoming. Perhaps space expands because that's simply what space does. Perhaps the energy of emptiness is not empty at all. It doesn't form stars. It doesn't hold galaxies. It doesn't shine. It simply stretches. And in that stretching, the universe grows, quietly, softly, with every breath you take. The farther you float, the more you feel it, not as a pressure, not as a push, but as a rhythm, like a deep hum beneath everything. Not heard, but felt. Not loud, but constant. And in that hum is the question, not what is dark energy, but what is this universe really made of? You begin to feel the scale of your unknowing, not as a burden, but as wonder, a kind of openness, the realization that even in all we've learned, there is still a vastness we cannot define, a silence too wide to name, and in that silence, possibility. Maybe dark energy is not a single thing. Maybe it's a symptom, a sign of deeper physics we haven't yet imagined, a doorway to something beyond space and time as we know them. And maybe it's not the only mystery waiting in the dark. Because while dark energy pushes things apart, there are places in the universe where the opposite happens, where light cannot escape, where time itself begins to slow, where space folds inward instead of out. And now you feel that fold taking shape in the distance. A soft gravity begins to pull, not urgently, but deeply. A quiet boundary appears ahead, where something begins or ends. The event horizon of a black hole. You drift now through what seems like nothing. No stars, no dust, just a stillness so complete. It feels like the edge of being, a blackness that stretches in every direction. The silence hums, the darkness surrounds, and yet you sense something. Just beneath the quiet, this is space, emptied of planets, of particles, of light. And yet, it isn't empty, because even here, in the deep hush between galaxies, something moves. You slow your breath, or maybe space slows it for you. The void welcomes you like soft fabric, cool and wide. But your thoughts flicker. What lives in this vacuum? What fills the nothing? Because nothing is never truly nothing. Even the quietest space, what physicists call the vacuum, holds a secret. You begin to look closer and deeper, not with eyes, but with thought. You peer inward into the foundations of what we think of as empty, and you begin to see the shimmer, tiny flickers, ghosts of particles, bursts and vanishings. The vacuum, you learn, is alive with uncertainty. Quantum mechanics tells us that even in perfect emptiness, energy cannot sit still. It twitches, it trembles, it dances randomly, briefly, wildly. These are called quantum fluctuations, and they happen all the time, everywhere, even here in the vastness. Particles appear out of nowhere, then disappear just as quickly. Energy from the void, returning it in a blink, like fireflies blinking in the dark, except smaller, faster, more fleeting, and somehow real. This vacuum, then, is not a glass of water emptied to the bottom. It's a sea of invisible ripples, a foam of possibility, a stage where the play is never truly paused. You let that idea settle over you. Nothing is not stillness. Nothing is not silence. Nothing is a storm you can't feel till you learn how to listen. These quantum trembles don't just happen once. They are always happening. The vacuum seethes with potential, as if the universe breathes between particles, between certainties. And you begin to wonder if this is what nothing is. What is everything? Physicists call this energy of empty space the zero-point energy. It is the lowest possible energy a quantum field can have, and it is never zero. Even when you remove all heat, all light, all matter, something remains. A hum, restlessness at the heart of existence. Some believe this vacuum energy might be connected to dark energy, that perhaps the push behind cosmic expansion is simply the vacuum doing what it does, being not quite nothing. Could dark energy be the echo of this ever-present trembling? You drift through this possibility like a thought stretching its arms. The numbers don't line up perfectly yet. Our theories struggle to match the quiet power of dark energy with the wild buzz of quantum vacuum energy. The math stumbles. The gap between prediction and observation is vast, but still, something is there. You begin to see the vacuum not as absence, but as fabric, not flat, but rippling, not lifeless, but whispering, a dynamic silence, a conversation between possibility and presence. Here in the void, the universe does not sleep, it waits. And you are not just watching, you are part of it. You, too, are made of fields of quarks, of charges, of uncertainties, smoothed into skin and thought. The same fields that tremble in the vacuum tremble in you, even in stillness. You are vibrating. You are never truly still. You float now through the quantum sea, and though you see no waves, you know they are there beneath measurement, beneath light, beneath knowing. Somewhere, two virtual particles blink into being. Somewhere, a bit of space curves in response. Somewhere, the energy of nothing becomes the motion of everything. And maybe, just maybe, this explains why the universe grows. Why space expands. Not because something is added, but because nothing was ever truly neutral. You begin to feel a new kind of awe. Not at the stars, not at the galaxies, but at the vacuum between them. The stage they play upon. The silence they sing into. The hum that surrounds them like invisible breath. This hum may not be loud, but it is constant. It may not be measurable yet, but it moves things. You imagine space itself trembling gently with this energy, and in that trembling distance grows. Galaxies drift. Time stretches. The future expands. And if that's true, if the vacuum itself has energy, then what else might it have? Could it fluctuate so strongly that entire universes bud off like foam? Could pockets of space, filled with just the right kind of quantum buzz, burst into new realities? This is the wild idea at the edge of science, the vacuum genesis, that our universe might have come from a quantum fluctuation so large it didn't vanish. It stayed. It grew. And maybe, just maybe, others did too. The vacuum then becomes not just the space between stars, but the space between universes. A field, not of emptiness, but of infinite beginnings. You are quiet in the face of this, not afraid, just open. The vacuum is not something to fear. It is something to feel. A field of trembling possibility that hums through your atoms, through your sleep. Through the light of distant stars. You'll listen to it now. The shimmer of potential. The dance of nothing. The heartbeat of something just beyond knowing. And as you float through it, you realize that even here, in this apparent stillness, you are still moving, still expanding, still becoming. Because the vacuum never rests. It only changes. It only breathes. And somewhere in that breath, something stirs, a bend, a fold, a curve, not in the vacuum, but in space itself. A shape begins to form, so large it cannot be drawn, so subtle it can only be sensed. The next question rises like a tide. What is the shape of the universe itself? If dark energy continues, what becomes of galaxies, stars, and time itself? You glide into the far future, billions of years from now, when the stars blink out one by one, and the night becomes deeper than we can imagine. But even here there is beauty. Full chapter, 8,300 words. You drift now through time, not just through space. Time flows here like a long, slow river. It doesn't rush. It glides. You let yourself float with it forward, farther into the deep future. The stars around you begin to change. Not suddenly, gently. Dimmer, fewer, more distant. The universe is aging, and you are here to witness its unfolding in this place. Billions of years from now, galaxies no longer cluster tightly. They are pulling away from one another, carried by the invisible hand of dark energy. The fabric of space continues to stretch, gently but endlessly. And so, light from the farthest galaxies fades from view, not because it has gone out, but because it can no longer reach you. The sky begins to darken. Slowly, galaxies vanish, not all at once, but one horizon at a time. It's not the stars themselves that disappear, but the space between growing too vast. Like friends drifting across a lake that keeps widening until their voices are lost on the wind. You breathe in this quiet. You are not alone, though the stars are fewer. Their absence is a kind of presence, soft and steady. You feel it in your chest, this deepening night, not frightening, not cold, but full of a different kind of beauty, stillness. The stars that remain keep shining for a while, but stars are not forever. They are fires, and all fires need fuel. As time stretches on, the largest stars burn quickly and fade. The smaller ones, cooler and dimmer, last longer trillions of years. But even they will one day grow faint. In the far future, the sky will not glitter. It will glow softly here and there with the last warm lights of red dwarfs. Ancient embers, the final starlight. You float past one small, quiet, flickering in deep space. It's the last of its kind. In this corner of the universe, around it, no planets. Just the quiet rhythm of its slow-burning heart. And then, even that fades. The night grows deeper. What remains are remnants. White dwarfs, neutron stars, black holes. The leftovers of once luminous lives. Ghosts of fusion. They spin quietly through the dark, each one holding a story of light now past. The galaxies, too, are changing. Many have merged. Others have thinned. And in time, even they fall silent. Their stars grow old. Their centers cool. The brilliant swirls of cosmic color fade into grays, then shadows, not broken, just still. You wonder, what does time feel like here? Not like a ticking clock, not like days or years. It feels like long breaths, like tides, too vast to see. Time here is a smooth and endless unfolding, and dark energy keeps unfolding it. The space between objects grows and grows. Black holes remain, for a while quiet engines in the dark. But even they are not eternal. Through a process called Hawking radiation, they slowly lose energy, shrinking bit by bit over unimaginable timescales. Eventually, they too will vanish. And then the universe becomes quiet in a new way. A time known as the degenerate era begins when the last sparks have faded and all that remains are faintly glowing remnants drifting in silence. But even this era is not the end. It simply gives way to another, the black hole era follows, a chapter lasting longer than any before it, where the only actors are the black holes, quietly evaporating into the void. Their lifetimes stretch over trillions upon trillions of years, and still, space expands when the last black hole sighs its final particle into the dark. Only the dark era remains. No stars, no light, just particles and fields. Just the gentle curve of space-time and the silent memory of all that came before. It is not a place of sadness. It is a place of stillness. The canvas. Cleared drift through it, not as an observer, but as part of it. Every atom of you once burned in stars, once hummed with light. Now, you move with the quiet rhythm of a universe at rest. You begin to understand something delicate, that the universe is not about endings. It is about becoming. Even now, even here, strange things might still happen. Particles may collide by chance. Vacuum energy may shimmer with the birth of something new. Perhaps a fluctuation will rise a ripple, strong enough to seed a new cosmos, just as ours may have begun. In this stillness, possibility remains, not loud, not likely, but present. And that presence, the simple persistence of potential, is a kind of grace, a quiet whisper that says, something may yet come. You hold that thought like a candle. It flickers softly, illuminating what came before. Galaxies, stars, planets, life. You all of it suspended in a single, sweeping motion of becoming it now. In the wide arms of the far future, you see that motion from a distance. You see how everything had a rhythm, how time wasn't just a line, but a wave, how light wasn't just brightness, but memory. You think of Earth, of oceans, of moonlight, of mornings. You think of the long cosmic chain that made those things possible. And even now, in this dim and distant time, you feel connected to it, not by light, not by distance, but by the quiet truth that you were here, that your atoms danced in the golden warmth of stars, and maybe they will again. You drift further still, into the silence that isn't empty. A new kind of question begins to rise, not about stars or dark energy, but about what holds it all together. What gives the vacuum its structure? What gives space its rhythm? What gives rise to time? You begin to wonder if this ever-expanding universe hides a deeper layer still, a hidden shape, a deeper symmetry, a truth not just of matter, but of information. You are floating in stillness now, but the stillness is not empty. It hums, not with noise, but with balance. A subtle tension between what pulls and what pushes, between what holds and what releases. You are drifting in the space between those opposites, between gravity's gentle grasp and the stretch of dark energy's hand. This is not silence. It is harmony. The universe is a soundless symphony, an unfolding of patterns too vast to hear, too slow to name. You begin to feel it like a pulse behind your thoughts, the movement of galaxies, the drifting of stars, the trembling of fields, a dance that never ends. You think back to the earliest moments, the Big Bang, the rapid breath of inflation, the first light escaping darkness, all of it tuned, somehow, balanced, just so. Too much gravity and the cosmos would have collapsed into itself. Too little and matter would have scattered, never forming stars, never forming you. Somehow, it was just enough. You breathe in the wonder of that, and now, eons later, the music plays on. Dark energy stretches. The fabric of space. Gravity pulls back. Every galaxy, every cluster, every distant light is a note in the cosmic score. Together, they form a pattern folding slowly across billions of years. You rest in the middle of this quiet order. It is not a battle. It is not a war. It is a conversation between forcicidal, patient, infinite. Expansion speaks, and gravity answers. Time listens, and you drift with the rhythm. You think of your own body. You are made of stars of carbon, of oxygen, of iron from ancient supernova. But deeper still, you are made of patterns, of particles in balance, of waves held in delicate form. The harmony you feel in the universe is mirrored inside you, as above, So within, you feel the quiet pull of gravity not as weight, but as connection. It holds galaxies together, yes, but it also binds you to Earth, to the moon, to every living thing that has ever walked beneath the stars. It is the thread that says we are part of one motion, and dark energy, that strange, persistent push. You feel it too, not as distance, but as change, a soft unfolding, the future being pulled forward, the breath of possibility stretched across space. You float now, not just in the present, but in the ongoing becoming of everything. You begin to see the universe not as a place, but as a process, a flow, a rising and falling of invisible waves. You are not outside of it. You are part of the music. You let yourself sink into this rhythm. You feel the spiral of galaxies as if it were your own pulse. You feel the quiet compression of gas, the birth of stars, the silence of ancient light still traveling. It moves through you, and you wonder, how does the universe stay so ordered? Why don't the stars just drift into chaos? The answer is in the music, symmetry, balance, laws woven into the fabric of space-time itself, conservation of energy, conservation of momentum, a kind of cosmic choreography set at the very beginning, unfolding still. Even randomness is part of the score. Quantum, uncertainty, fluctuations, entropy, all held within the shape of something larger. Chaos, yes, but not without structure. Like waves crashing on a shore, there is motion, but not meaninglessness. You feel safe here, in this soundless rhythm, because it is not indifferent. It simply is, not tuned for you, but not against you. And in this balance, you find rest. The stars do not rush. The galaxies do not panic. The universe moves, as it always has, slowly, gracefully, with purpose beyond knowing. You are held by that purpose, cradled by its patience. There are still mysteries. There always will be. But the unknown does not feel sharp here. It feels soft, like a doorway or a distant melody, something you cannot yet reach, but are always moving toward. You let yourself listen, not with ears, but with awareness. You hear the expansion of space, not as noise, but as a space between notes widening. You feel the gravity of 1,000 galaxies pulling in quiet unison. You sense the delicate tension that holds it all together, and you wonder if the universe is a kind of music. What is its shape? Not a line, not a circle, but something deeper, something curved, layered, folded. You begin to sense it. Now just barely a whisper of geometry beneath the stars. The question forms gently. What is the shape of everything? You lie back and let your breath fall into rhythm, slow, gentle, quiet. Your body relaxes as if floating, and in a way, it is. Because right now, even in stillness, you are moving, not walking, not turning, but drifting, silently riding the slow, steady expansion of the universe. Every atom in your body is part of this outward flow, like leaves scattered on a widening river. You are carried by something vast, invisible, and ancient. Dark energy, that soft, mysterious breath pushing galaxies apart. It touches you. 2. You are not separate from the cosmos. You are a child of it, woven into the very structure that stretches and curves across time. Long ago, in the first seconds after the Big Bang, all the matter that would become you was packed into a space smaller than a grain of sand. Not you as you are now, but the ingredients of you: carbon, hydrogen, calcium, oxygen compressed into heat, light, and possibility, then dash expansion. Not an explosion, but a soft unfolding, like the opening of a flower in deep time, and you, in all your quiet complexity, have been riding that unfolding ever since. Your bones are made of star remnants. Your blood once flowed through ancient oceans, and the space between your atoms even that is widening. Subtly, imperceptibly, you are made of distance, of motion, of space in motion. Pause here. Let that truth rest in your chest. You are not fixed. You are always becoming. When you touch your skin, you are touching something that was once inside a star. And when you close your eyes, you are falling backward into a story that began before there were eyes to see, before there was breath to hold. The galaxies you glimpse in photographs, some are moving away from us faster than the speed of light. Not because they're traveling through space, but because space itself is stretching between us and them. And so your night sky is a museum of echoes. Starlight from ancient pasts strapped in a present that barely holds them. You are lying under a sky that doesn't exist anymore, and yet it holds you like a lullaby. Dark energy keeps singing. It does not pull or push like gravity. It simply ... widens. A silence that grows. A force that fills empty space not with noise, but with more space. And in this ever-expanding room, you are not lost. You are exactly where the universe has placed you. Not by accident, but by the quiet unfolding of natural law. Guided not by intention, but by beauty. You are evidence of that beauty. Look at your hands. They type, they hold, they brush away sleep. They have come from stars, traveled across billions of years, and now they are here soft, live, curious. Dark energy is not out there. It is part of the same story that made you. The reason galaxies don't fall inward. The reason the night grows deeper. The reason we can look out and still not see the edge. Because there is no edge. Only more space, more becoming, more time for things to drift, to change, to be. And in that drifting, you are not falling apart. You are participating. You are part of the unfolding breath of all things. There is something comforting in that, to know that you belong not only to Earth, but to a vast, unseen architecture that holds galaxies like seeds. You like a whisper. You are not small. You are not large. You are simply here. A moment in the movement. A pause in the silence. A soft knot in the long thread of expansion. Even your thoughts waves of electricity dancing in the dark even. They ride the currents of this expanding cosmos. Your mind, your memories, your dreams, they flicker against the backdrop of a living universe that is still unfolding, still growing, still ... wondering tonight. You rest within that wonder. The stars above, the atoms within, the gentle mystery that holds them. All together All of it breathes in you. And as you drift toward sleep, you do not leave the cosmos behind. You carry it with you, in your cells, in your pulse, in the quiet rhythm of your being. Because you are not simply in the universe. The universe is in you. And so, as this chapter closes, as your breath slows and your thoughts begin to fade, let your final waking feeling be that of connection. Not to answers, but to the questions that made you, you. A child of expansion, floating through an unfinished story. A story whose next chapter might live in the silence between stars or the glow of something even deeper, even quieter, yet to be found. Hello, dreamer. Welcome to the Dreamy Astronaut, a quiet corner of the cosmos where science gently drifts into sleep. Tonight, we're exploring something deeply mysterious, yet endlessly beautiful. Dark energy. What's tearing the universe apart? It may sound dramatic, but this invisible force is real, and it's pulling the fabric of the universe outward, stretching space itself like a slow cosmic breath. We'll journey through the silence between galaxies, float beside ancient starlight, and listen to the quiet hum of the cosmos. But before we begin, where in the world are you joining us from tonight? And what time is it where you are right now? Let me know in the comments below. I love imagining all of us stargazing together from every corner of the earth. Now, settle in. Let your body grow still. Let your breath become slow. And let's drift into the dark, beautiful unknown.